everyone. I've got around 15 minutes, so this will be a rapid run through lots of interesting things. I'm just going to pull up some slides. I do have the slides, but there's only a few of them. I've kept it very light touch on the slides. So just quickly, no code, this is what we're talking about today. Occasionally you might see some things around low code, and I'm sure we'll get into that discussion a little bit later on around what the difference between no code and low code is. A bit about myself, there's me on the left and on the right. So there's work me on the left, which is very, nice professional picture. And on the right is me doing what I like to do most of the time when I'm not working, which is running up some stupid hill. Basically, I support most organizations with digital data and development. And if you want to check me out on Twitter, which is where I share most of the things around no code, feel free to do so there. I'll share those links a little bit later on. Okay, Fergus mentioned what is no code, and this is a quote taken from Wikipedia, which is about no code development programs, and it allows programmers and non-programmers to create application software through graphical user interfaces and configuration instead of traditional computing programming. What does that mean? In many ways, I think it's point and click. Can you point and click and do something to basically build something? So in no code, you shouldn't really need to use any programming language. It is pointing and clicking. What you see is what you get, is what they used to kind of call it. And this is very much in that field. What can it be used for? Well, the world is kind of your oyster with this. What I've got here on a screen is a database built in Airtable, which has a whole range of different, I've segmented all these different types of no-code tools into different uses. And there's things in there, you can build a website, you can do databases, you can do landing pages, you can do email, you can do a whole list of things. Now, I have around about 700 no-code tools in this Airtable, and you could probably lose yourself in there for several days, weeks, months, years around figuring out which ones to use. But there's probably a tool out there for you for pretty much anything, is what I would say. And as Fergus mentioned earlier on, the beauty of kind of no-code tools is that there's probably a few of them. So if one doesn't particularly meet your needs, that's fine. You can find a different one. But the beauty for me is that generally they're built to be part of an ecosystem in that you can link them to other tools. And that is probably the beauty for me from this. So how can no code help? I work with lots of different organizations, community businesses, and also charities as well, and social enterprises. And generally, the way most people come to me is around, can we do something quick and can we test an idea? Can we create and test an idea quickly? And probably cheaply is what I would say. There's lots of things around saving time on manual tasks. I think the beauty of no code is very much about learning by doing. I'm a big proponent of this because actually it lifts the veil, the box, opens up the black box to see what is behind it. And so by learning through this process, trying things out, you can figure out what exactly works for you. You're not reliant on what the platform does. You can figure it out yourself. And as a business, you can build in stages. You can develop something, test it, try it, and then build upon that with different tools. Some examples that I kind of work with people on, some things around building a marketplace, and that's one that I'm going to very quickly demo in a minute, how quickly you can get something from having a few products into an actual marketplace. Things around internal documentation and your website. You can spin up a website really quickly. And automation. I mentioned about being able to take over manual tasks pretty quickly. And that's one that I think is quite common, a common use that people come to me with. So for example, that might be, we have a community hub, and what we want to do is book out rooms. We spend a huge amount of time basically having phone calls in or people sending emails in, and then we go to try and book these rooms, and there's a lot of back and forth. Or we're forever building email lists in various different places, and they're held in various different ways. And what we can do is try to bring those together, or it might be around billing as well. So those manual tasks that you quite often find within an organization, no code is a good way to kind of get around some of that. So I'm going to stop sharing these slides now. And I'm going to talk through kind of a couple of different tools that I use quite often and give kind of rough examples of some of these things. And then I'm going to do a really quick live, I've never done it before, we'll see if it works, marketplace. So bringing some products into a marketplace in, I think, under 4 minutes, but we'll see. Let's hold me to that. So some of the types of things that I use quite commonly, I mentioned there's over 700 tools. The big ones for me are something around Airtable. Fergus mentioned that previously, and Airtable is a big one, and this is Airtable. I use Airtable a lot as the database behind lots of the work I do. When I mentioned that people come to me for automation, a lot of that is about moving information from one place to another, okay? And there's some automation tools, which I'll talk to you in a moment, but I often use something like Airtable to hold a lot of that information in a database. It looks quite like a spreadsheet in many ways. And the beauty behind it is that it is relational, so you can link things together. I'm not going to go into too much details about Airtable. I'll give you a little bit at the end, which talks about how you can learn more about that. This one here is a demo I built for somebody around billing and invoicing. And what it allows people to do is set their clients, set the people, set the projects, and then set some activity. So basically we can set up a series of different projects or clients or people we need to bill. We can link activity to that. And then within that, I can then assign that to a specific project and work out how much to bill them. Okay, that's nothing that complicated. You can do that with an Excel spreadsheet. The extra bit that I built into this is that over here at the right-hand side, if we can zoom in, it does some calculation, and it also builds in some things where you'll see here it says zero invoice. Now, Xero is a online finance tool. It's a bit like QuickBooks. And what this allows me to do is click that button. It automatically produces an invoice directed to a specific person who I've listed in this Airtable. So that means I can, for the people I built this for, they can quickly save them about an hour to an hour and a half every month on invoicing. They click a button, the invoicing is done, it's all detailed to the right people, all done, okay? And the way I do that, the way I link Airtable to something like Xero is via something called Zapier. Zapier is one of the automation tools you will hear or might hear a little bit more about. I don't know if Charlotte or Simon are going to talk a little bit about these, but Zapier is a tool to move information from one tool to another tool. There's a few other ones out there. I personally like the IFFFT one as a name because it basically describes what it does. If this, then this, basically. So if something happened here, it does this. And that's what basically any automation tool does. You get it to look for something called a trigger, something happens, and you get it to do something. And in this case, I built, it looks for me pressing that button or whoever pressing that button, takes that information and sends it to Xero and creates an invoice. And that moving of information is one of the most powerful things. If you look here on my screen, you can see that in here, there's a whole list of different tools that you can start with. So I can say Google Calendar. If something happens in my Google Calendar, like a new event, I can then take that information and move it to somewhere else. there's a whole list of these, and that's when I said there's a whole ecosystem of no-code tools to be able to move from one thing to another. And that's one example of moving information around. Another example that I use no-code tools for is something like this. This is a tool called Notion. It's a tool that this is a template that I put together for somebody because what they wanted to do was hold information about their organization in one place. So this was a kind of bit of an onboarding tool for them as an organization. And what this allowed me to do was create for them a handbook. And in here, it's got a whole list of things like policies, projects, the people. They have the meeting notes, where their impact is. It's got all the tools that they use, the images and assets. And all this is a really quickly spun together organizational handbook. So if you go in here, you'll get a whole list of other pages that you can use. So for instance, this one is all about their purpose, vision, value, etc. And no, I think Notion is a really good tool to get to grips with because it's kind of a bit like a Google Doc, but you can do a few more things with it. What can you do with it? Well, I actually use it for my website. And so I've built my website based upon Notion page. It's a Notion page. It's exactly the same. I've spun it into a proper website using a tool called Super, which allows you to take from Notion into a website. And because I work in Notion quite a lot, it enables me to just not think about having to create a website and do all of that management. I'm already in Notion. I do the work in there. Okay, I've got 4 minutes left. Can I create a marketplace in 4 minutes? This is going to test me. Okay, so two tools I'm going to use. I'm going to use Airtable. I'm going to use Softer to try and create a marketplace very quickly. I need some information. I'm not going to create a whole database of things, but what I'm going to do is try to pull some information from a website called Sports Shoes because, as I said, I love running, and this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take some information from this website, okay? And I'm going to use a tool, a no-code tool called a web scraper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a few bits of information from this website. So I'm going to say, I want to know the brand of everything. I'm going to set brand. I want an image. Who thought this was a good idea at this stage? Do this in 4 minutes. I'm going to take the name of something. I'm going to say that. And I'm also going to say the price. And the price is there. What I'm doing here is something called a web scraper. And basically what that allowed me to do is pull from that website all of this information that was publicly displayed really quickly. I'm going to download that into a CSV. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to create a new Airtable. I'm going to import from a CSV. I'm going to upload that. And there's the information that I've pulled through from that web scraper. I'm then going to go into something called Softer, which links Airtable to a kind of a web application. I'm going to use a blank template. I've got 2 minutes left. I'm really testing myself here. I'm going to very quickly throw in a header. I'm going to throw in a hero feature just to make it look a little bit pretty. I'm going to change different picture. There we go. Different picture of, could be something to do with running. What am I going to do now? I'm going to add another block. And this is where the interesting bit comes, is I'm going to bring in a list of information, like, let's go with that one. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to link that to Airtable. Now what I need to do is just go and get an Airtable API code from my thing. 1 minute. Come on, Tom, you can do this. Okay, I've connected that to my Airtable. Trail shoes. And now what I'm going to do is, in these categories, I'm going to link the image to an image. Oh, there's some shoes. I'm going to get the text from the name. I'm going to get heading from the brand, and I'm going to get this one. I'm going to call this one from the price. Okay, and then basically within hopefully 4 minutes, I've got a semi, don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. I've got a semi attempt at a website, which is a marketplace. So basically using this, I was able to bring in information from a database onto what looks like, roughly, very rough, basically a marketplace. Okay, so I can list that. So if you are a community business and you're thinking, we want to see if we can sell something, we want to create a sales, we want to sell some products, you don't have to go all out and invest in a huge, massive new build website to create a marketplace. What you can do is quickly spin this up, see if we can actually basically sell that. And there we go. There's a, very rough and ready, but within 4 minutes created something that you can test. Okay. I've got 1 minute over. I'm very sorry for going 1 minute over, but there we go. Rapid fire all the way through.
Tom,
I'm going to start talking now.
That was really impressive. And yeah, you lived up to it. I mean, yeah, 4 minutes, 4 minutes 30. I mean, it's all the same. It's under the. I mean, when you're running, when you're running, I mean, if you're losing 30 seconds, you would be pretty upset, wouldn't you? But anyway.
Well, to be fair, Fergus, the distances I run, it doesn't really matter as long as I get to eat.
Yeah, 100 miles. Yeah, I know. I've seen your Twitter feed. But anyway, impressive. Both impressive. Thanks for that. And hopefully that's shown you, that's that live experiment just shows how quickly it is and how simple it is to sort of use these drag and drop applications, and how you can test things up, have a go, see if it works. But in that, you also saw Tom use, basically, I think you use 4 different softwares, 4 different products there. So it isn't like where you're just going to use one. There is lots of different functionality of different ones. It's about a lot of plugging and playing around to see which ones fit best for your solution.